Do you remember? Do you remember? I remember all those years.
Oh, I remember. Oh, remember. I remember. Oh, I remember.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Do You Remember podcast. My name is Adam Anwar. I am your host, and today I'm joined by Bulgarian stand-up comedian Mike Yanek.
Thank you for having me, mate. I'm looking forward to talking about. This is like a dream come true because I don't have many mates who are wrestling fans, and we're just gonna talk about wrestling nonstop for like an hour or 2 hours. So I'm definitely looking forward to this.
Awesome, I'm looking forward to it too. And yep, you're exactly right. We're going to be talking about wrestling, but not just any wrestling. We're going to be talking about SummerSlam 1998. So for those people who don't know, give us a bit of a description. What is SummerSlam 1998?
So 98, they have the biggest. What's the name of it? The biggest pay-per-view of the summer or something like that. It's pretty much the Attitude Era, which is the best wrestling era ever. And it's just a few title matches. I have like the list here of the matches and stuff. And it's just in the middle of, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, he's pretty hot, but, he's in the middle of just becoming like a worldwide sensation. So it's a very important pay per view, pretty much.
Exactly. So we'll dial it back a little bit. We'll reverse all the way back to the beginning. So just for everyone's reference, how old are you?
So I'm 30 years old right now, but I look
Okay,
younger. So
you do. Pretty much exact same as me. I'm 31. So when did you get into wrestling? When did you first start watching it?
So I think I was doing the math the other day. So I was born and raised in Bulgaria until the age of 21. I used to live there and then I moved to the UK. So I think it was 98 that wrestling first premiered in Bulgaria, but the
Right.
first memory I have was from 99. So this was the first time the wrestling was introduced into Bulgaria.
Hands on his thighs. We've seen this before.
Oh, cool. So 1999. So you would have been about 10, 11 years old at that point, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool,
yeah, yeah.
cool.
Exactly.
And what was the appeal for you when wrestling came on the TV? What was it that made you sit and watch?
It was, I remember when this thing came, mate, it was like an explosion. Honestly, like we've never seen anything like this before because, like, the entertainment that we had before was very standard. We had cartoons, we had sitcoms, we have some movies, but we've never seen anything like this before. It was insane. It had such a massive impact on the country. It was ridiculous.
And do you remember, like, when it first came on, who, like, the first wrestlers that you saw on TV and that you gravitated towards were?
So the first ones that I remember, so that was 99. I think SmackDown kind of started around that era and Raw. So the first ones were obviously Kane, Undertaker, but American Badass Undertaker. This is the memories I have. I
Sure.
remember him being the dead man, but like he was with the chopper and all that stuff. Obviously, you have The Rock, which was really, really popular, and you have Stone Cold Steve Austin. Shawn Michaels, he had injuries, so he was back and forth. Triple H, pretty much the old school stable, you know what I mean, of the most popular guys, and Kurt Angle as well.
Of course, yeah, Kurt Angle. And you said before that like a lot of your friends don't like wrestling now, but you also mentioned that in Bulgaria it had like a huge effect. So was like a lot of your friends at the time watching it, or was it this kind of just your thing and no one else really was into it?
I remember this thing premiered, and maybe, I'm not joking, mate, maybe 5 months later, the whole country was like, it was on fire. Honestly, like it was everywhere. You cannot escape it. It was a phenomenon. Like if you go to any shop, doesn't matter. They had the merchandise, they had T-shirt. Everything was
Hmm.
from China or from Turkey, a bit bootleg. It was like original from America, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
they had the t-shirts, they had the sweaters. Like they started putting like stickers and everything. You buy a packet of crisps and they have stickers inside, so you can collect them. It was insane, and it was outstanding. Everybody, and I mean everybody, boys, girls, doesn't matter, everybody was obsessed with it. So yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time to be a kid.
Wow, that's really interesting because in the UK it was a little bit different because it's been here for like a long time, and in the UK they had their own British wrestling for a while. That when you look back on it now, it's not as entertaining, but all the kids used to love wrestling, and a lot of the kids would pretend that they didn't like it, but everyone loved wrestling during these days, the Attitude Era. So it's interesting that in Bulgaria, literally everyone was loving it, but everyone was open about watching it as well.
Oh yeah, there was no shame, and it was like, oh, by the way, this is the kayfabe era, so we didn't know it was. I don't like to use the word fake, but you know what I mean. It's like we
Scripted,
had,
yeah.
yeah, we had no idea it was scripted, and we were kids. You know what I mean? Like you're 10 or 11, so you don't know. And I remember there's a lot of controversy as well because it was very violent, and people thought it was legit. People beating the
Really?
Jesus, yeah, out of them. And there was a lot of programs, like talk shows and stuff. Because you know kids were doing moves, and when somebody gets injured and it goes to the news. We had
Yeah.
it was an issue. So I remember that from America they kind of stepped in because they wanted to get off air, but they want, like, Vince want to expand the market. So I don't think that he was the one who said keep it in Bulgaria. But I remember there were people from America who said we need to keep it, blah blah blah. They kind of moved it around. They made it really late or like obscure hours, but people were still watching it. So it stayed, like, formally became a part of pop culture. It was insane, mate, honestly.
That's really interesting as well because I remember my mum told me, like, at a very young age, Adam, it's not real, blah, 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 blah. So I was in denial for a long time and I believed for a long time. But by the time I was about 11 years old, I'd come around to the fact that it maybe was scripted. So when was it that you first kind of really realized yourself?
Oh, mate, I think I was like 18 or 19.
Really?
I was so dumb. Yeah, and I watched like a documentary about like wrestling moves. They used to have this series where they expose. So there was a documentary back in the day about magic, and this guy with a masked magician, he
Yeah,
exposed
yeah,
all
I
the
remember
tricks.
it.
Yeah, and they had the same about wrestling, like two wrestlers with masks, and they exposed everything, the ring and this and that. How even the referee, because the referee is a part of the match, giving
Yeah.
secret moves and this and that. And I was, my heart was broken. Honestly, I was so
Yeah.
disappointed. I
Yeah,
wanted
it
to
was
be
former
real.
it
God
was
damn it!
yeah, it's former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Harley Race, who I believe was involved in that show, which was like really shocking at the time that he would be involved in really exposing wrestling. But Vince McMahon had already done it, I suppose. Well, at least in America, I suppose in Bulgaria it's like still one huge secret.
I mean, yeah, because the thing is, we didn't have the actual pay-per-views. I actually watched the pay-per-views at a later age when we got, like YouTube and torrent sites. So
Yeah.
maybe that's like 2008, 2009. So pretty much, 8, 9 years later, I downloaded like the full catalog of pay-per-views and actually
Hmm.
watched them. Um, and yeah, a lot of the interviews, because there's one very infamous interview where they pressured him, I think it's 60 minutes or something, because there was a huge controversy, I think maybe 2001 or something, because of the violence, kids doing moves and all that stuff. And they pretty much pressured him to say, is this Vince? When, you know what I mean? When somebody hits somebody, is this real or is this scripted? And I think if
Yeah.
people, they can find it, and he's like sweating and stuff. And he said, no, it's just, it's fake, blah, blah, blah. So there's like few interviews that are very key moments where actually you kind of understand, oh, okay, like this is not, what I mean? But it's still very entertaining. It's just like, I really hate when somebody comes up to me and, when I say I'm very open that I'm a huge wrestling nerd, and
Yeah.
people like, wrestling really? But it's fake, this and that. And I was like, but hold on, mate, you go to the theater or you go to a movie, you know, like, what's the name of this Robert Downey Jr.? He's not Iron Man. You know that. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not Iron Man. He's portraying a character. So what is the difference between like me turning on and watching Stone Cold Steve Austin? You know what I mean? Like, what is the difference? I don't understand it.
Definitely. The exact same people who tell you that wrestling is fake are the exact same people who on a Monday morning used to rush into work and be like, oh my God, did you see what happened on Game of Thrones? I can't believe the dragon killed this person. Fuck off. Dragons aren't real, you fucking idiot. You can enjoy it all you want, but don't come around telling me that wrestling is not fucking real the next day.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand it. You know what I mean? And now, like, especially, we're comedians, so we kind of we grow up with this thing, like we know how to defend ourselves and our viewpoints verbally. So you know what I mean? For me, it's not an issue. I can always make jokes and defend it and all that stuff. But yeah, it's wrestling's awesome. And you know what I've noticed? The more I get to know comedians, there's so many wrestling fans in the like
Oh, there's
comedians. It's
tons.
ridiculous. It's
There's
ridiculous.
there's tons. When I put out that I was going to do this podcast, the amount of people that I had like saying to me, "Oh, I want to do it, and I want to do a wrestling
Mhm.
themed one." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, my podcast is going to be complete wrestling for weeks on end."
Well, wrestling is really popular, to be honest with you. It has a huge demographic of listeners as well. So, it's going to give you a good boost from the beginning. So, I don't think that's a
Well,
bad thing.
hopefully, yeah. But it was interesting when you were saying before that you only got the TV shows in Bulgaria, you didn't get the pay-per-views because that mirrors my fandom of WCW. When I was a kid, I was more of a WCW fan. I used to watch them both because we used to get them both live, not live, sorry. We used to get them both head to head on a Friday night. It was
Hmm.
the Monday Night Wars in America, but in the UK it was the Friday Night Wars because they were aired on delay here. But we never got the pay-per-views from WCW, so it was only after they'd gone out of business that I ever managed to get to see them all. And I had to do the exact same thing as you, relive them all like decades after they'd even finished. So I'm with you with that struggle of only managing to see a lot of these things years and years after. And you've only just recently watched SummerSlam for the first time, haven't you?
Let me, yeah, before we do the pay per view, let me just mention, because you said WCW and ECW. Mate, in Bulgaria, we had no idea that those two companies exist.
Yeah,
No idea, because we get only we didn't get WCW. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't get it directly from America. Like, the Bulgarian TV providers, they had a contract with, directly WWE, so we just get their stuff. And they don't mention the competition. And we're talking 99. It's not like you have internet and YouTube. I mean, you have internet, but
sure.
it's not as popular as now, and you don't have YouTube. And like, the information stream was very low when it comes to wrestling, so we didn't even know. So, like, you have Hulk Hogan, and then he disappears for 4 years. And you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because he's wrestling there, and you're like, what the hell happened with Hulk Hogan? Is he dead
yeah,
or something? And then he comes all of a sudden with a new character, Hollywood, and you're like, NW. Hold on, who the hell is NW? You know what I mean? Because you have no idea what's
yeah.
happening in the other companies. So yeah, mate, we had no idea, honestly. Like, I found out after they finished the wars, after WWE won and bought them,
Yeah.
and they started releasing some footage, and I was like, oh, hold on, what is that? Like, then, and years later, I found out about those promotions. I had no idea.
It's crazy. I think I discovered WCW completely by accident. I don't know if they have them in Bulgaria. They probably have them under a different name, but in the UK they have things called car boot sales.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so like in the like I used to go to these car boot sales with my mum, and I remember seeing these. They were blatantly wrestling figures, but they were made completely differently from the WWF toys at the time. And I was like, "What is this?" And I flipped it over, and then on the back it's got a little stamp, and it says WCW. And then slowly I start to see WCW sticker albums in places, and then my mum's friend, when was at their house, ITV was on, and it just happened to be on. I was like, whoa, it opened up a whole new world for me. There was more than one wrestling show, so I absolutely used to love it. So,
In the
what?
UK, did you have, so, Attitude Era, before that era, before that, which is, I know it's, iconic wrestlers, but I didn't enjoy that because it was really, we didn't have it. But I'm rewatching stuff now, but it's very
Hmm.
gimmicky and very childish. I don't like that. Did you actually watch that era
Yeah,
before Attitude Era?
yeah. I started watching. I think the first time I watched was in 1992, and it was two very cartoonish characters. It was Doink the Clown and
Yeah,
Kamala. And Kamala was
yeah,
like this savage from Africa, and he used to come in like a skirt with like a moon printed on his belly. And literally, as like a 4-year-old child, what I saw was like the clown ran under the ring. Kamala, the savage beast, is like trying to find him, and he can't figure out where he's ran. And Donick ran all the way around the other side of the ring, and then just kicked him in the arse. And then, as a 4-year-old child, I was like, "What is this madness? It's crazy." And then,
yeah,
obviously, as I got older, the kind of the product itself got more um, not sophisticated, but it got more serious, let's say, and it kind of grew up with me. And like it started to get into more adult themes like in the later 90s. I mean, I was only still like 10 at the time, But as I got older, the kind of product did as well. But yeah, I was very much into Bret Hart at the time, very kind of superhero like.
Mm.
Do the right thing and protect your brother and do everything he can not to fight his brother, even though his brother's antagonizing him to no end. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
I think that era, obviously, especially if older, like if you're 40, like our attitude era is there, you know what I mean? Like if you're a bit older and stuff. But for me, it was just way too gimmicky. And actually, the technical wrestling was not as good as, like, because wrestling now is absolutely insane.
Sure.
Like you see people who are like pretty much jobbers and they do outstanding physical moves. Even back in the day,
Yeah.
like back in the day, a DDT was a finishing move. Just like super normal move was a finishing move. It was just too gimmicky for me. And then yeah, like the Attitude Era was like sophisticated. Like the characters were so well developed. Like character like Mankind. Like first time I saw him cut promos and stuff, I was legit, because I was a kid. I was like legit scared. I was like, I've never seen anything like this
Yeah.
before. And he's a reflection on mental illness and all that stuff. And then you have Kane and you have like all these different characters. But then the era before, yeah, you have a clown, you have a plumber. Kane used to be a dentist. You know what I mean? Like what
Yeah.
the hell? Rubbish, man. Like you know what I mean? All these occupations, what's happening? Why is everybody fighting? Like all the jobs from the neighborhood, the baker, the dentist, everybody's fighting. The plumber,
It was
and I don't like that.
no, completely. It was very gimmicky back in the day. But I mean, because I was so young at the time, it was okay for me because, when you're a
Yeah, yeah.
kid, you watch these kind of things anyway. But like, to your point, yeah, the finishing were very basic and rudimentary in those days, like a DDT and a leg drop. But in the Attitude Era, it didn't get much better because one of the main guys was just dropping an elbow on people.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels. You talking about him?
No, I'm talking about The Rock, the people's elbow. All he was doing was running from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring, then he just dropped an elbow on them. That was his big move.
But hold on, was that a finishing? No, it's the rock bottom though, isn't it?
No,
The finishing move
the elbow, he finishes with the elbow.
as well. Oh God, really? Oh come on, Rocky, you can do better
Yeah,
than that.
so,
Well, in all
well,
honesty,
that's
like
wrestling,
my
isn't it?
my my opinion about The Rock, to be honest with you, I think he's a great promo. Like he's great at talking. He's an okay technical wrestler. I mean, he's not the best. Let's be honest. I mean, there are wrestlers, especially the new generation now, who like. If he wrestles
Hmm.
now, I think he'll be a mid Carter, maybe like a intercontinental champion because of the way he speaks. But his in ring abilities were not that good. But the thing is,
Ah,
for
no,
me,
he'd be the main guy now. If he debuted today, he'd be
uh,
the main guy. He'd be their John Cena.
oh, John, don't get me started on John Cena, mate. Like John Cena, I don't like him. Like, but I don't know. I think, but the thing with The Rock is, again, like he's just even removing from wrestling, I think he's one of a kind. He's an awesome guy. But I think his main idea, I think he spoke about it openly, was to get into wrestling. He always wanted to be an actor. You know what I mean? Like this was his thing. So he saw, because he's like a third generation, he has connections, he has the body, the physique,
Hmm.
and they can teach him. So I think that he saw it like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna make a name, and then get out. While Austin, even he said, I didn't want to go and do movies. They offered him. I don't want. I want to wrestle. I want to go in. I want to have my full career and then
Sure,
retire.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is the difference between. Like, I'm not slagging off the guy. He's awesome. You know what I mean? But it's different between a wrestler and a, like they say, sports entertainer or that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So. But he's good though. I mean, the Rock is very, very, very fun. Honestly, like I can listen to him for days. That because now he's at the phase, the pay-per-view and stuff, where he's, the people's champion, and everything is the people's eyebrow, the people's belt, the people's, like, they
Elbow.
had a leather match, so the people's ladder, like
Hmm.
it's just fun, it's just good fun.
Sure, yeah. So you're not a big fan of The Rock then. So who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Well, but hold on, are you asking me when I was a kid, or are you asking me now?
Let's do both.
Okay, so when I was a kid, I was a huge Undertaker fan, but the American Badass, that
Yeah,
era,
yeah.
which was very short lived. I think it's about a year and a half or 2 years. I love the Undertaker, but my issue is I like more robust wrestlers, and it takes him one time. I timed him. It takes him about a minute, with the classical entrance to go from You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah,
Until
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, come on, man, have a minute. And that's why I like the badass. He just with the bike and looks nice, and it's just like 20 seconds and he starts. And I was a huge Limp Bizkit fan as a kid as well, and his theme song was, like "Keep on Rolling"
Yeah,
from Limp
yeah.
Bizkit. Huge fan, obviously. Huge Stone Cold. Now, as a grown up, I think Stone Cold's got, because like when I see him, it's just like I have so many flashbacks to my childhood. So he was like the embodiment of my childhood. So I just
Yeah.
gotta say him. But from the new generations, I think Will Ospreay. He wrestles in New Japan Pro Wrestling is absolutely outstanding.
Sure,
Like
Will's
I've never
incredible,
seen
yeah.
anything like outstanding. Um, the Young Bucks are they're just fun, even though they're a bit past their prime. They're kind of like the middle-aged Bucks now, but they're still very good. Pentagon Junior, like Pentagon Junior from the Lucha Bros. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he wrestles in AAA in Mexico and AEW. He is like as a character, because I watch a lot of stuff. The only thing is he doesn't speak English, so he
Yeah.
cannot cut a promo in English, which is a shame. But he just looks like the way he looks, the way he carries himself in the ring, the little movements, the little walks, and he's so good. And his brother as well, Phoenix. That's about it. I mean, but I'm a huge AEW fan, to be honest with you. They have a really, really fun roster.
Yeah, I was expecting you to go straight WWE, and then you went New Japan, and then you went AEW, and I was quite surprised that you went that way. So that's
Uh,
interesting as well.
to be honest with you, I don't watch the new WWE product at all. I've stopped watching it maybe not well, when CM Punk left, when was it 2013, 14, something like that.
Just
I
before
just watch
WrestleMania
it.
30, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe 6, 7 years ago, I stopped completely watching Raw and SmackDown. I just don't like it. It's not good at all. It's gimmicky and it's childish again. I only watch NXT because NXT is badass. I mean, NXT is so good. And I watch a lot of AEW and a bit of Ring of Honor now because of Marty Scurll and a was a National Wrestling Alliance on YouTube. It's so fun. Like
Mm-hmm.
if the people listening, if you've never seen it, go. It's just fun. You know what I mean? It's pro wrestling. They interact with the crowd. It's like a bit low budget. It's awesome. It's amazing. And I watch, New Japan Pro Wrestling, but I don't watch the current WWE stuff. I don't even follow it. So,
So you're a proper wrestling fan then? You're a proper wrestling fan with all that stuff that you're
oh
watching. That's a lot of stuff
yeah,
to be watching.
huge, mate. Yeah, like pretty much the only thing I watch now. I stopped watching movies and like TV series and stuff. I just can't be bothered. The only two things I watch is wrestling and stand-up comedy. To be honest, so that's it.
And to be fair, with the amount of wrestling that's available in the world right now, I mean, obviously not right now because everything's on hold,
Yeah.
but in general, there's so much to watch. There's a never-ending stream of like quality content.
I think we live in absolutely outstanding times. If you're a wrestling fan, this is like probably one of the best times. Except maybe if you were, during the Monday Night Wars, because that was probably really, and watching it live unfold, it was probably very interesting because it's like real life. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what's gonna happen, and it's real life between those three companies. But I think this is now because I think AEW after this pandemic, they'll put up a fight, to be honest with you, against
Yeah.
WWE. They're doing very well. Very happy
I
for
always
them.
feel a bit like left out because in the UK we couldn't really get ECW, so I always feel a bit left out that I missed ECW in the whole Monday Night War era. But you missed WCW and ECW, and I feel like, oh no, if you
Yeah.
only could have watched them, man. If you only could have had
Oh, mate,
WCW at least.
if I when I was 10, if we saw ECW in Bulgaria, there's gonna be carnage on the streets. I'm not joking, mate.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, no. Thank God we didn't have ECW in Bulgaria when I was 10. I'm not joking, mate. Because like when you were a kid, we used to do all the crazy moves, all the wrestling moves, and jumping off beds and like hitting each other with stuff and Jericho walls and submission moves, rock bottoms, everything. And no, thank God we didn't have people like Sabu, you know what I mean, who is a maniac.
Sure.
Like, no. Thank God we didn't have him.
Sure, you would have ended up like all these backyard wrestlers in America, like smashing themselves with light tubes and stuff like that.
Oh my God, yeah, that's so dangerous. Like, and there's like 12 people, and you're putting your body at so much risk for 12 people and no money.
Sometimes
Just
there's
like,
no people there, it's just you and your
yeah.
mates in a video camera.
I don't like the really hardcore stuff, to be honest with you. Even now, because when I'm getting older, I think like we kind of not become more sensitive, but become a bit more grounded as we grow. So even now, when they have the chair shots, I'm rewatching the Attitude Era
Mm,
without protection when they don't lift their hands. I'm kind of like, oh, I don't really want to see that, because I know that that is actual damage to that person's mind
brain.
and
Yeah,
psyche and all that
you don't want
stuff.
to see them suffer for our entertainment, do you?
No, no, no. I enjoy, I know what's real and what's, like they're playing. Yeah, I know that some of the like there is some legit submission moves that probably put some, toe on your body, but some of them are, the John Cena, the hands or whatever the hell, that's nothing. But that's still entertaining. But I don't want to see a person legit getting their arm broken or something like that just because, yeah, because I want to be into. I don't want to see that. So I don't watch the really extreme, because there's some proper extreme stuff out there. I don't want to see them.
Nice one. So let's jump into SummerSlam 1998 now, shall we? The show started off with D'Lo Brown versus Val Venus for the WWF European Championship. Now, what do you think of this match? What do you think of these two guys?
Yeah, so yeah, I have the list here as well. That's good. So yeah, the thing is, D'Lo Brown. Oh my God! Listen, I know it's in wrestling sometimes, especially back in the day. Now they have a bit more freedom in the other companies besides WWE. But a lot of the time, people come up with the characters for the person. You know what I mean? Like somebody writes out the stuff. Who came up with D'Lo Brown's character? Honestly, like there's nothing about this guy. Like I'm not joking. The only thing he has, that little stupid wobble he does with his head.
Sure,
That
yeah, yeah.
that is the only thing this guy has. Honestly, D'Lo, who came? I know it's probably not his fault. Probably like some guy in a suit backstage or something. But there's nothing. Like I don't have an opinion on him. You know what I mean? This is how I don't care. That's how much I don't care. Like, if the actual D'Lo Brown hears this one day, he's probably gonna be like heartbroken and stuff. But D'Lo, I'm sorry, mate. Like, there's nothing about this guy. Like, the Nation of Domination was actually a very good, interesting heel stable. They were getting so much heat, and all the characters. You have The Rock, you have the Godfather, you have Farouk, which then he became tag team with was it with Bradshaw, and then you
Yep.
had D'Lo Brown, and who's the Mark Henry. Like besides D'Lo Brown, everybody did very well for themselves. After like after a few years or months,
Hmm.
D'Lo, he didn't like. I don't have any opinion on him. Honestly, he just wobble his stupid head and just a weird move. And then you have Val Venus. Like, okay, I'm ranting here, honestly, but Val Venus, I have no idea. This guy is so over, mate, because I'm watching the weekly show. Like, when this guy's stupid porn music hits, everybody goes insane. Even the guys, you know what I mean? Like, if you're a girl, okay, fair enough, he's a porn actor or whatever, but even the guys are going insane. So it was actually interesting match, but what happened? So Val Venis won. Yeah, Val
No,
Venis
D'Lo
won, but
Brown won by disqualification because they kept
um
messing around with D'Lo Brown's body protector, like his chest protector. They kept messing around with
yeah.
that. It wasn't a great match, to be honest with you. And you bring up a really interesting point that D'Lo Brown, he didn't really have much of a character. When they brought him in, he was this like young, kind of athletic guy. They had like some decent hopes for him. They put him in the Nation of Domination, but obviously at the same time, you've got The Rock in the Nation of Domination, also young, also really athletic, who had even higher hopes. And I feel like D'Lo Brown kind of got pushed to the side. Val Venus, on the other hand, this is just a crazy, crazy gimmick. Nowadays, watching it, I can't imagine a world where Val Venus exists. He doesn't fit anymore, does he?
Hello, ladies.
And like, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but he's a major like weed advocate, and he's always saying how weed should be legalized and all this stuff. And basically, all he does all day is just tweet about how weed should be legal. I'm like, mate, like, have you not got anything else to talk about? Fair enough, that can be what your main interest, but you've got nothing else to say.
Well, like even like his WWE run, like it was kind of the same, isn't it? Talking about the promos, the big Valvoski. Was it something that the big Valvoski? Hello, ladies. But like his finishing move is the money shot, which is just it's not even a frog splash, it's just a splash of the top ropes, and it's really dumb. Like honestly, like he doesn't have any finishing moves. I don't know. I mean, he's funny, he's entertaining to watch, but he's not that good of a wrestler. And I don't know. It's weird. It was okay, but like the opening match, like WWE kind of books weirdly. They kind of like the first few matches are always weird, and I think it's like stand-up comedy. Like the first and the last match act, they need, you know what I mean? Experience act. You don't put the two green guys to open the show like such a big show
Sure,
in
you want to
Madison
start off
Square Garden.
with a bit of energy, don't you? You want to start off with a bit of entertain the fans, get them all into it, let them know what they're here for, let them know that they're really in for a good wrestling show tonight. But then putting these two out, I think it was supposed to be a better match than it ended up being, but it just in reality, it didn't really come to pass, did it?
Yeah, the booking is weird, mate. Honestly, like even the next match as well. We're gonna talk about it, but it's just like they book weirdly. They kind of book like escalating. You know what I mean? So by the time the last match gets on, it needs to be the best. Wow, it should be like, like a bit like stand up comedy. Like, you have the first act needs to be an experienced act who is really good, and then the middle spot. Like you should put them in the middle. Like those two first matches should be in the middle, and I don't know. It's just weird, but it was okay. I mean, nothing that interesting.
The thing is, there's nothing else really on this card that stands out that they could have really put there. But yeah, you're completely correct with the next match being completely weird. We had the oddities, Giant Silver, Golga and Kurgan. They're brought to the ring by Luna Vachon and the Insane Clown Posse against Kai and Tai, Dick Togo, Mensiteo, Sho Funaki and Taka Michinoku with Yamaguchi-san. Oh, this is just, it's just goofiness on goofiness on goofiness. Mike, go.
I just Jesus. I just want to apologize to all the listeners because, in all fairness, even when I finished watching this paper, when I was like, shit, it's not that good. But like I said to you before we started, I'm watching everything now in, like in order. So I don't want to have any spoilers because if we go maybe like 1 or 2 years down the road, when you have Kurt Angle and you have Edge who is established, and you know what I mean, you have more people, and then the pay per views get really good. But I'm gonna be there in like 3 months or whatever, so I don't want to wait 3 months. But it's okay. I mean, like we're gonna make this as entertaining as possible to the people. So yeah, this was actually not bad because the oddities. If you've never heard of them, just Google the oddities Attitude Era. They're like this, like uh, Giant Silver is like 7'6" or something. They're like these
Yep.
humongous people, and they looked very bizarre. Kai and Tai, like a Japanese table. They're all like my size. I'm small, so it's just like weird. And the Yamaguchi-san, he's like this crazy. I don't know. He's 4'11" or something. He's like this crazy, like I don't know, hype man manager or something. And they had a very weird feud with Venus. I think it's a bit after that or before where they like circumcise him pretty much or cut out his junk. So
I
yeah,
think
I
they
mean
just
a bit.
completely cut it off, yeah, but it's a bit. The oddities are really weird because they had this really weird career trajectory. A lot of them, like Giant Silver, he started off as like a basketball player. He went to the Olympics as a basketball player. He came to the WWF. He was absolutely terrible. Then he went over to Pride MMA fighting, and he had
Oh my.
a record of like 6-1 there, where he lost 6 fights and he won one. And then you had Golga, who started off as Earthquake in the WWF years and years and years ago, had a decent career, and by this point he was an absolute joke. And then you got Kurgan, who ended up going into Hollywood and like doing like loads of different films. So they all got a proper weird career trajectory.
The thing with these guys, I think, like if you're a human that size, okay, if you're like 7'2" or a 7 footer, because the amount of 7 footers on the planet is really small, like across the whole world, or especially in the West, where you can maybe like have a career in wrestling, is really small. So if you walk into a gym, if you walk into a basketball court, if you even walk into a movie set, like just because you're like such a rare specimen, they will give you an opportunity straight away. I'm not joking. So
Exactly,
that's why
yeah.
you see like the great Kali is like 7'4" or something. So they're such an exception that they'll give him a run, but most of the times they're not good because like Shawn Michaels, he is like 5'9", 5'10", which is tiny for a
Yeah,
wrestler.
I
And
think it's
he's
about
not a big
5'10",
guy.
yeah.
Yeah, so he knows he needs to be charismatic. He needs to be good on the mic. He needs to be athletic. He needs to have the full package. So he lives wrestling. But Giant Silver or whatever, you know what I mean? He just jumps from things to things and hopes he makes it, but he wouldn't. No
and
disrespect, John Silver, but you know what I'm saying?
he's really uncoordinated as well in the ring. Really uncoordinated. Kurgan was really uncoordinated. They try and dance at some point, and I'm just watching it going, "Oh, this is painful. Get it off my TV."
Yeah. So that's the case with these big guys. I mean, sometimes you have like an exceptions, but like I cannot really think of many people who are above 7 feet and they're really good wrestlers. I genuinely can't. Like Kane is 7 feet and he's really agile, and Luchasaurus from AEW, I think he's like 6'10" or something, 6'9", and he's very good as well. But those are the only two people, and the Undertaker, which are really tall and big, that are really really good. I cannot think of, and Vader, but he's a bit small, like shorter. You know what I mean? I'm talking about height and stuff. So
Yeah, I think 7 foot and above, you can't get any good wrestlers that size. They just can't work. But let's move on to some guys who could work. We had a hair versus hair match. X-Pac versus Jeff Jarrett. Now this is a really weird one because Howard Finkel was wearing a DX shirt coming to the ring with X-Pac. That just was weird. That was a weird visual for me. That just didn't fit.
yeah, and I think they shaved his head or something in the
They did.
previous
They shaved his
episode.
head
Yeah,
a few weeks before.
yeah. You know, the thing is, I love gimmick matches. I'm such a sucker for. I'm not joking, mate. Like the more gimmicky, the better. Like when they say hair for hair, and I was like, oh, I'm in. I don't even care who it is. When they do, I mean, ladder match is standard, but they did like the Inferno match a few pay-per-views ago, where they have like the ring on fire. I'm up for that. First Blood, I'm up for like whatever it is. I love it. This was actually a good match. Like Jeff Jarrett is so annoying, but his promoter Tennessee Lee, oh my, he's like a comedy character. I love him. He's just so annoying and so funny, and with that Tennessee accent. And Jeff Jarrett is he's just silly. He's just stupid. You know what I mean? His stupid
He's
face.
a very easily, sorry, hated bad guy, isn't he? You just hate him so easily.
And the thing is, he's not really. I mean, because some heroes they look like you should hate them, but he's like the Miz. You know what I mean? Like the Miz. If you just see him, like if you show somebody the Miz and he's not a wrestling fan, and if you ask him, what do you think, a good or a bad guy, just for like wrestling for 5 minutes and just walking in, you know what I mean? They'll be like, oh, he looks really likable, probably a good guy. And Jeff Jarrett, he doesn't look like a bad guy, but he's so annoying and stupid. Like, and he's always in white, you know what I mean? Because heels usually dress in dark colors, and he looks like a baby face, but he's so unlikable. He's such an idiot, you know.
I know I hated him from the time he debuted in WWF, but it's interesting how you said like, oh, hair versus hair match. You're really into it. I wish I could watch it with your with the eyes that haven't seen it before, because I knew going into this that X-Pac, he's never shaved his head, but Jeff Jarrett, he had a haircut very soon near this time,
Yeah.
so I was like, Jeff Jarrett's definitely going to lose this match. I knew it going in.
Well, he should have, because like DX are doing pretty well. I mean, obviously,
Sure.
because I'm watching the timeline. So if people haven't watched recently, the timeline of Attitude Era, they wouldn't actually remember. But because for me it's very fresh, and WrestleMania 14, which was a few pay-per-views ago, uh that was the last match of Shawn Michaels, because he had like a very bad injury, and now he's away for a few months. And now because before that it was only him, Triple H in China, and I'm a huge DX fan. I love the aesthetic. I love them as a group. I love them as individuals,
Hmm.
except Triple H. I've never liked Triple H even as a kid. I only like him.
Really?
Nah, I can't stand him. But I only like him and DX because he's more fun. He talks shit. He points at the crowd and women to show the tits and like insane stuff, mate. You know what I mean? Just ridiculous stuff, and that's funny. But when he became the assassin with the sledgehammer, and I don't know. It's just like I didn't like him, and that's why like I've always liked Kurt Angle, because he's such an idiot, but he's such a good wrestler. But he's like a 9-year-old who doesn't understand that he's annoying, and he doesn't know why you don't like me, but he's
Yeah.
like technically so good, and he's like a pleasure to watch in the ring, and outside of the ring he's just goofy and silly, and I've always loved Kurt Angle, you know what I mean? Especially in his prime. Oh my god, he was a beast. And anyway, I'm
Definitely.
getting off track now. So yeah, I
But
was
it's
about to say,
interesting you
yeah,
said
so
that about
DX.
Triple H, because when I was
Yeah.
a kid, I used to love Triple H. Like when he first burst on the scene,
Really?
he was Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and I hated him then. But when he was in
Oh yeah,
DX,
yeah.
I absolutely loved him. And DX had that DX jersey that was like really cool, and I've always wanted that. And yeah, just Triple H was so cool. And then he transitioned into becoming like a really, really, really hated bad guy in like the mid 2000s as well. So he's had this like really interesting career, and obviously now he's running the thing that you love. He's running NXT, so you know you got to give him his props.
No, mate, like I kind of separate. I think I was always very good to separate the human from the entertainer. You know what I mean? Like as an entertainer, that's my opinion. Like I liked him only in DX, and I didn't like him as solo. But as a human, I'm absolutely taking my hat off to him. Just imagine this. This is
Yeah,
insane. Can you imagine if you walk into Microsoft, okay, like the company, and you start off as a corner office guy? You just like, I don't know, you just send emails all day. And no, actually, before you walked in, somebody's gonna stop you and gonna say, in 25 years, you're gonna be the second guy in this company. 25, and you'll be like, are you below Bill Gates? And you're like, yeah, that's gonna be you. And you're gonna start. You see this little corner that nobody's gonna pay attention to you. You're gonna, I don't know, shred paper all day. And you'll be like, are you kidding me? So this is what he did. This is insane. Like people sometimes forget where he was just a jobber. He just walked off the street. And 25 years later, like, Vince, I hope he's in good health, but one day he's gonna pass away. And I think Triple H, obviously with Stephanie and Sean, but he's gonna be the guy, and that's insane. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
what he managed to accomplish, it's insane.
Definitely. They used to do whatever they could as well to embarrass him in the early days. Around 1995, they would have him against Henry Godwin, who is actually Dennis Knight, and in this match with Jeff Jarrett on the outside. They had him in a match
Yeah.
with him, and it would be a slop match where like he'd be rolling around in pig shit and stuff like that, having slop thrown all over him. And now the guy's going to be running the country, the company, all these years later. It's madness. But yeah, you are right. I think this match is probably one of the better ones in the middle of this card. X-Pac versus Jeff Jarrett. And yeah, it
X-Pac
was.
is just fun. He's just fun. I like him. Like he just goes out and his promos. I don't know. They're fun. Their promos like like a 14, 15-year-old disgruntled teenager.
Sure,
His
yeah.
voice kind of cracks and he doesn't know. Like he's a bit too hyped up and he doesn't know how to like control himself to let the crowd. Like, give me some noise, just screaming. He's fun and he's a smaller guy, so I always cheer for the smaller guys as well. A bit of solidarity. And he's just fun and he's very agile and very fast. He's just fun to watch. To be honest with you, I like him.
Yeah, it's interesting how in the WWE world he's a small guy, but in reality he's about 6 foot tall, and he probably weighs about 16 stone, 17 stone of muscle. So he's a big jack guy in general, but in this weird world of WWE or WWF at the time, he's a small guy. But yeah,
Yeah.
moving on to the next match, we had Jacqueline and Mark Merrill against Mark Merrill's wife at the time, Sable, and Edge. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, so this is so if you're a big Edge, like again, I don't like Edge. Sorry, man, like I don't know, you kind of lined up all the people I don't like, but it's
Nah,
just
I
who
am with
I
you
am.
on this one. I'm with you on Edge. I'm not a
I'm
huge fan.
yeah, I'm very like some when I talk wrestling, I have a few mates, but when I talk wrestling, a lot of people get mad at me, but I'm very opinionated about what I like and what I don't like, and I don't shy away from arguments, but this is just who I am, and it's like I can never get on board with Edge. I don't know why. It just never resonated with me, and he never got that underdog vibe that you kind of want in a champion and a babyface, like overcoming something. You can relate to Stone Cold, like your boss and this and that, and everybody's trying to keep you down. But Edge, sorry, mate, you look like a supermodel in your prime, and you get all the girls, and you're famous, and everybody loves like Randy Orton. Like, sorry, I cannot root for poor old babyface. You have everything,
Yeah.
mate. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
sorry.
The thing with Edge that really turned me off Edge is everything that happened with him with Matt Hardy around 2005 and the whole Lita thing. And Lita was engaged to Matt Hardy,
Oh yeah,
but Lita was on
yeah.
the road with Edge and they ended up having an affair. And then not only that, but Matt Hardy just lost his job and his fiance at the same time, all because of Edge. That really, really turned me against Edge.
Yeah, and then they transferred that into the big screen, to the screen, isn't it? Because they had
Yeah.
like a storyline and stuff. I remember they had like this weird sketch where they were in the bed and stuff. It's kind of famous now on YouTube, but it was kind of weird. Yeah. Um, But I actually liked Edge when he was doing, with the Gangrel, that little thing they had him.
The Brood, yep.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay for a while. I kind of like Gangrel. Like he's a bit. I like when, you know, I don't like the he always came across a bit generic to me. You know what I mean? Like I don't like a, what when you're supposed to be like a rock star or something like. But like Gangrel is interesting. He's a vampire. You know what I mean? Like how ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
I like when the like when you stand out as a character. You know what I mean? That's what I really like, especially visual. Edge, it was okay match to be. And Mark Merrow, so he's like, for those of you who don't know, because he's outside of the wrestling world. Before he came, he was a boxer, a pretty good boxer. Golden Gloves, which is a competition, I think, in New York, like national competition. So he won that. But he was a kind of a weird wrestler. He always used to do a bit like mix between wrestling and boxing, which was kind of weird. And he had a weird mustache, so I didn't care about him.
Yeah. Yeah,
He got
by
a
this
really
time
weird.
he was very, very weird, and he was never a good, that great of a worker anyway. But he was kind of more of a, not a high flyer, but he had more like moves off the top rope and stuff like that in his earlier days. But yeah, they changed him during this time to being just that straight up kind of wrestle, but like mixing a little bit of boxing in there as well. And it just, yeah, it was
Pretty
awful.
much.
The
By the
big the
way,
big
I'm
part
looking.
about him was his wife was Sable, and Sable was like getting really, really popular. So that basically kept him in the company for a while.
Yeah. By the look of it, because I see here that there are 8 matches, so we did the first half, and pretty much there's nothing in the first half, honestly, mate. Like the only thing from the first half is the X-Pac match, which was kind of okay. The other three were shit, and that's what I'm saying. The booking, it's completely wrong. Like you should mix it up a little bit. But they kind of had an issue. So like this is middle of '98 we're talking about here. They had a huge issue. They had like 4 or 5 huge stars, and below that is a huge dip because there's nobody. So you had Stone Cold. So The Rock, by the way, he is not the Rock that he is maybe 2 years or 1 year later. So he is like a middle character. He's not fully into himself. So I cannot really count him. So the only people you have is Kane, Undertaker, Stone Cold, and Mankind. I mean, yeah, and Mankind. And that's about it. And everything else is just like a huge drop off in talent. And it's so it's a bit difficult to watch sometimes, even the weekly program, because you literally have a match that is worth watching. Everything else is just jobbers or just middle card, and it's kind of weird, honestly. Like, and especially tag team division right now is really bad.
So Edge and Sable beat Jacqueline and Mark Merrow. Then moving on to the second half of the show, we had a Lions Den match. Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart with Dan Severn by his side. What did you think of this one?
To be honest with you, this was actually quite entertaining. I don't know, what did you
I
think
knew
about
you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that, Mr. I love gimmick matches. Go on.
Okay, mate, they had this weird steel cage. It was very weird. It's not like a UFC cage, but it's kind of round. Like it was bizarre, and I think it was like the first time they've done something like that. I think on a pay per
Yeah.
view,
Mm-hmm.
because they had on the previous pay per view a few. I think it was a King of the Ring. They have this like they fought in a basement. It was like a weird mix between martial arts and wrestling. It was same again. I think it was Shamrock and Owen Hart again. It was bizarre. So they had, because the thing is, so in the '98 era, they had a few legit killers. Like Shamrock is a legit UFC champion, and he's like a legit martial artist. They had
Mm-hmm.
Steve Blackman, the Lethal Weapon. He's a legit martial artist, and Dan Severn, who is again a wrestler and champion UFC and all that stuff. And I think they had well, yeah, Mark Morrow, a boxer. So they had some legit badasses there. And Vince, he probably thought, okay, let's do a combination. So they did that match. It was very interesting, honestly. Like the crowd went crazy for it. So it was very fun. They punched each other. There was a bit of wrestling, but there was a lot of like moves, MMA, and people didn't know what the hell's happening. Some were booing, other were throwing stuff, some were jumping up and down. It was just entertaining. And Ken Shamrock is like, he's so intense, and I think this is just how
Definitely.
he is. And he doesn't know how to be a wrestler, and it's so funny when you see him because he's a legit killer. You know what I mean? And he's really over, by the way, like really over with the crowd. It's fun. And Owen Hart, I cannot stand him, honestly. Like he is
Really?
obnoxious like crazy. Yeah, yeah. He's boring. He's boring. He's stupid. His promos are stupid.
No.
Yeah, mate. I don't like him.
Oh man, this is where I've got to completely disagree with you on everything that you've just said, right? Because I hated this Lions Den match. They had some innovative moves where like Shamrock would launch himself off the cage, kind of like Pettis did in real life, but Pettis didn't do it so long after this. But yeah, the Shamrock Owen match, I didn't like the Lions Den concept. I liked how Dan Severn was like cage side, and Owen wanted him to throw the towel in and he wouldn't do it. But yeah, Owen Hart is such a great character. He plays that annoying heel so well, especially when his brother was around, Bret Hart. And
Yeah.
when Bret left the WWE, I think they missed a great chance to push Owen into that main event with guys like Raw, because they used to be in the Nation Domination together, with guys like Austin,
Yeah.
because he broke Austin's neck. There's the story there. With Triple H, he was a good rival for Owen Hart before. Throw him in there with The Undertaker. They missed a lot of options with Owen Hart. And I've got a story actually about Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock. I was at when WrestleMania was in Orlando about 2-3 years ago. I was at the WrestleCon there, and Dan Severn was kind of just stood by himself. So I was just walking past, and he was kind of stood where the people were walking through. Most people stand behind their tables and stuff. He was standing in like the walkway. So as I passed him, I just like held my hand out and was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Like I'm a fan of your work and stuff like that." And he shook my hand and he wouldn't stop talking to me. He just kept talking and talking and talking. And usually wrestlers at these things, they'll talk to you for like 30 seconds. They want your money, then they want you to fuck off. If you're not going to pay, they just want you to fuck off so the next
Yep.
person can come and they can make some money. But Seven, he would not stop talking to me. And then I was like, oh, I see Ken Shamrock say, like, you two, used to have a bit of a beef, didn't you? I don't know if he was working me or whether he was being honest with me, but he kept going on about how he hated Ken Shamrock, how it's not over, they're going to have a fight in Bellator, and he's saying all this stuff, and I was like, what? This can't be real. You both, like, way past your primes, like, what's going on? Are you just trying to make me pay money to, like, buy one of your stuff because I'm believing you're real or something? I don't get it, but yeah, Dan Severn, he was a bit of a weird bloke, but he was a very, very nice bloke as well. But yeah, that's my Dan Severn story.
Well, to be honest with you, they had an actual in '98. They had an actual, I think, 2 or 3 matches in the UFC or some other MMA promotion at that time. And I think, no, they had 2 matches, and I think they were one apiece. So when he was saying, maybe he was honest because they legit, outside of wrestling, fought a few times. And actually, Ken Shamrock, he had a match maybe 2 years ago. You know what I mean? He's a 50 something, mate. You know what I mean? He's all wrinkled up and stuff, and he's still fighting. Maybe he retired now, but he fought maybe two years ago. So I wouldn't be surprised, to be
He
honest
did.
with
He
you.
fought Hoist Gracie, and it was a rematch from UFC 1, and it was absolute dog shit. Oh my god! I was into it. I wanted to see it, and then it happened, and I was like, I can't believe I just watched that. That was an absolute waste of 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's when they're old, like, yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, now when we talk about old athletes, I don't want to see old wrestlers wrestle anymore. I know this is a thing for now because back in the day it was different, but because now they keep bringing them up, please, please stop bringing. Leave the Undertaker alone, okay? I don't want to see him in Saudi Arabia for one choke slam. The guy is like 1,050,000 years old. Leave him alone, please. Bloody
Yeah,
hell,
definitely.
Jesus.
Right, the next match we had, one of my favourite tag teams of all time, the New Age Outlaws, Billy
Yeah.
Gunn, the Road Dogg, Jesse James, against the tag team champion, Mankind. No partner. What was
Yeah.
going on?
Just Mankind, yeah. So because I've watched the previous episodes and it was kind of unsure if Kane is gonna help out his brother or he's gonna show up with Mankind. So he didn't show up at the end. So the match itself, it was not that eventful because it was a fun match, but it finished in like 5 minutes because it's only Mankind and they beat the bejesus out of him, the two of them. And I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a tag team or no disqualification because they even put him in a trash can, I think, at the end or something. They got like a big bin. Oh yeah, New Age Outlaws. They're so funny. I love them. They're so funny.
Definitely the whole garbage can thing. It was a throwback, wasn't it, to WrestleMania 14, which I think is earlier on this year. The New Age Outlaws versus Terry Funk and Mick Foley. unfortunately, I think at the time, Terry Funk was probably. Was he in ECW at the time or was he in WCW at the time? But I don't think he was available. Otherwise, it would have been great callback to bring him back and have that rematch from WrestleMania. Even if you're just going to put them both in the trash can at the end. But
Yeah.
yeah, then obviously Kane came out, didn't he, at the end and nailed Mick Foley a few times with a sledgehammer. But I love the New Age Outlaws. I absolutely used to love them.
They were, I think, a great because so pretty much when Shawn Michaels got injured and it's all of a sudden it's just him and China. And literally, because it was on a Sunday WrestleMania 14, so he went away. And literally, I think it's even the first thing. On Monday, Triple H comes out and he cuts this promo on Shawn Michaels. You dropped the ball, you lost the championship, blah, 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 blah. And he's out now, and he said, I need to build up my army now. And
Yep.
what he called X-Pac. So it's actually first X-Pac. And I think by the end of the episode, they have the New Age Outlaws who are officially not in DX. They have a match with, I think, Terry Funk and Mick Foley, and Triple H and X-Pac in China come in and they help them out, beat them up, and they officially join. So the next episode, they're all together now. And I think they're absolutely outstanding addition to DX because their style and humor and just being cheeky and wild and crazy, I think it's absolutely great with the DX brand. So that's a great, great theme, and just the stable. It's awesome. I mean, I've never met anybody who doesn't like DX. To be honest.
Definitely. And oh my God, I'm so nostalgic thinking about it because that time, just after WrestleMania 14, when this version of DX got together, was such a great time to be a wrestling fan. Honestly, I absolutely love that era. But speaking of D-Generation X, the semi-main event, Triple H with China by his side versus The Rock with Mark Henry by his side in an Intercontinental Championship ladder match.
Oh, that was
Probably, for
awesome.
my money, the best match on the card.
Yeah, I can agree as well. That was outstanding, honestly. Like,
Rock now. He is poised. He is coiled. There's the Rock drop.
I didn't know what to expect because I was like, oh, okay, let's see what they can do. That was outstanding, and The Rock bleeding at the end, and it was just fun. Like ladder matches are usually pretty good because they're very dangerous and unpredictable.
Sure, and the only downside of this match is when they started doing the whole slow climb up the ladder. You know that fake slow climb they do up the ladder,
Yeah.
waiting for their opponent to get back in the ring and knock them off. They hadn't done that before, and I believe this is the first time they've done it. And oh my God, that's the only thing that takes away from this match. But what a rivalry! Triple H versus The Rock is such a great rivalry, and it also feeds into D-Generation X versus the Nation of Domination rivalry. Have you gotten to the parts on Raw yet where they do the parodies of each other?
Yeah, that was a few episodes back. Yeah, I saw the DX doing the Nation, but I think the Nation they do a parody of them as well. But that's later on. I'm not sure. But yeah, I saw the DX one. I mean, by the way, because there's no way you can recreate. It's super unpolitically correct. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way you can recreate that in 2020. No way.
Sure, and they parody some stuff from real life as well, where X-Pac pretends to be Mark Henry, and he mentions the fact that a few years before, like someone shit in Mark Henry's food, and Mark Henry ate it. Oh, it's classic stuff.
Yeah, it's it's insane, mate. Like, yeah, but hey, it was a different time. You know what I mean? Like, what can the attitude they were pushing buttons. But yeah, that was a good match though. I really enjoyed it. I did not expect that. And it's kind of those things, when you do a comedy gig and somebody before you, and maybe it's a guy or a girl you've never seen before, or maybe you're not expecting too much. You know what I mean? And they absolutely murder the place. And you're next, and you have you ever had that thought like, shit? You know what I mean?
I see it as a good challenge though when that happens. I see it as a good challenge.
Because I think this is what Stone Cold was thinking, like, oh, I need to bring it. You know what I mean? Because they did very well, honestly. Like, and I think this is the tides are turning for The Rock because before that match, genuinely, when he came out, the whole crowd was screaming, Rocky sucks. Rock, you know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
music is playing. So, but I think I mean, he's still heel, but people are starting to like him now. I see even more signs and stuff because he really put an effort. And it's very hard to hate somebody when he's really putting a big effort, even though he's a heel, because some heels, like, Randy Orton, he doesn't try. You know what I mean? Like I don't like him. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't try in the ring. Like The Miz, like I don't like him as well. But you're not supposed to like him. But he's a good wrestler and he puts an effort. And it's just a gimmick, and I'm kind of laughing and stuff. I don't like him. But some wrestlers just don't put that much effort. But The Rock really did. He's always put effort.
definitely.
He's a
He
good
really
wrestler.
upped his game as well over these last 2 years. He debuted roughly about 2 years before Survivor Series '96, and he was Rocky Maivia, and it was Die Rocky Die, and
Mm.
all that stuff was going on, and he had really upped his game to this point. And Mark Henry, speaking of upping his game, at this point, Mark Henry in his career was terrible, but he really upped his game over the course of the next decade. But we'll get to that in future episodes. Now, the main event, the WWF Championship title. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker, two of the biggest legends in the history of professional wrestling going one on one here.
Yeah, that was it was a good match. I did enjoy it, even though I wanted, because I don't remember the storyline, so I don't know what's gonna happen pretty much, which is very interesting to watch. I actually want the Undertaker to win because the thing is, like, I don't like when a champion keeps the title for more than 6 7 months. It's just me, it's just my preference. I like when there's title changes and like things happening. Even though he lost the title for one night few pay-per-views ago to Kane, but just like for one night. But I was thinking, like, if he loses, that's gonna change the storyline and it's gonna be more interesting. But he won. It was a good match. It was a good match, and Austin, he always performs and delivers, and I just love him. He's so intense and so crazy, and I don't know, he's just a rebel. Like, how can you hate the guy? Like, I've never met a guy who doesn't like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Sure, definitely. And not only that is, I was looking at the artwork for this show, the poster for it, and it's got
Mm.
Austin versus Undertaker on the poster, and it's such amazing artwork. Take a look at that when you can, and if you're listening at home, take a look at that. I'll probably upload it when
I'll
I
Google it
upload this
now.
episode, but it's so cool. And Austin, absolute legend of professional wrestling. Everyone could kind of get along with him because he was the working man fighting back against his boss, and everyone who ever has hated any of their bosses can relate to the fact that Austin was going around and just stunning him, and that his boss going, listen, you might want to fire me, but I'm your best employee, so you can't, and I've got this title, and it's classic stuff. And obviously, The Undertaker, he's kind of coming to the end of his dead man era here. He's about to go into his American Badass persona that you said, and that's coming soon. But yeah,
Yeah.
we've got two classic guys, and it was a decent match. All in all, this card, it was a disappointing SummerSlam. I'll be honest with you, it was a disappointing
Yeah.
SummerSlam. It took place at Madison Square Garden, which is the arena when it comes to wrestling. It's a SummerSlam show. It's the second biggest show of the year, or so they say. Personally, I think the Royal Rumble is, but whatever. And they just didn't quite deliver, in my opinion. What did you think of the show, all in all?
Can you check if this thing is recording? Because I think hmm, something came up here. Sorry to interrupt, but
I think it's recording, yeah.
oh, okay. Because something came up on my end. I was thinking, like, I kind of chose the wrong. Even when I finished watching, I was like, shit. For the first episode I'm doing here, we can do more in the future, some more interesting pay-per-views. But on the other hand, because I'm sure that not many people review that pay-per-view. You know what I mean? So for those people, it's gonna be quite interesting, and you have characters that usually, like, the oddities, and you know what I mean. People don't usually talk about them that much, so that's kind of interesting, I think. It was okay, mate. To be honest with you, the last few, like, obviously The Rock and Triple H was really good. The last match was good as well. Like the first half of the card was really bad. Like, the booking is you cannot have four bad matches in a row. Vince, what are you thinking? You know what I mean? And then you have the second half was actually quite good. But I think it's interesting because with the talent that they have, the people that they have at the moment, they did well. The cage match was interesting. Also, they had, like, in the previous episode, this very bizarre thing where they had this thing called Brawl for All, which is like, I don't know
Oh
if you
yeah,
remember it.
it's absolute
Remember it?
garbage. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And they actually kept this thing going for like weeks, and there was like this huge tournament, and the winner was 25K or something. He gets, cash. But it was interesting because it was not scripted, so it was actual real fighting. But when you get people who have no idea how to box or how to fight, it just looks bizarre, and it kind of
Yeah,
ruins the magic about them, because I saw, Bradshaw. Bradshaw is like 6'8", 350 pounds, ex-football player. He's massive, right? So he's portraying this huge, tough guy that he brawls and bars. And then he went to the ring and he started boxing, and you can see him swinging just ridiculous, because he has no idea
Just
what he's doing.
haymakers,
And
yeah.
he looked like a little boy in the ring. He has no idea what he's doing. And this other guy, that was actually the final. He's called
It was
Kranka. No,
Bart Gunn.
I think
Bart Gunn.
Puke or something. Huh?
The final was Bart Gunn.
Was it him? Oh yeah, that guy. Was that the one that he actually legit knocked him out?
Yeah, I think Bart Gunn knocked Bradshaw out. Yeah.
Yeah, and he legit, like, so they do the first round, and he knocks him out and he falls down, and you can see he's standing up, he's still wobbly, but you can see that look on his face, like, what the hell just you know what I mean, like, what happened? And it
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
really, really bad. And then, do you want to continue? Yeah. And then the other guy like whack him again really bad, and he fall on his face, and the winner. And then it took him like a minute or something to get up, and he was legit, where the hell am I? And I saw his few matches, Bradshaw, and it just looked so bad. Like, I know they were experimenting, and the audience had no idea what they were watching. They were booing again, and the commentators, they were trying to save the situation. They were saying like, "Oh, we're trying new stuff and this and this," and just didn't work, mate. So they had this weird, you know what I mean? They were trying some stuff out during that time.
It kind of
Um,
shows how far the WWF have come, because the guy who won it was Bart Gunn, and when Bart Gunn debuted, he tagged teamed with his so-called brother, his kayfabe brother Billy Gunn, who's obviously in the New Age
mm,
Outlaws, and they were the
mhm.
Smoking Guns, and they used to come to the ring and they pretend to be cowboys, and it was a really really cartoony kind of gimmick, the Smoking Guns. And that was only in about 1993, 1994 when they debuted. Flash forward now to
Yeah,
2000, sorry, to 1998, 4 years later, they're no longer a tag team, and now Bart Gunn is winning this weird brawl for all concept where they're fighting kind of for real, and it's just a weird time in wrestling history where WWF were just trying to throw shit at the wall and just seeing what was sticking and what was working, and this was definitely one of the things that didn't work. They stuck it out until they could possibly do it. And then Bart Gunn won. And then they kind of punished him by having him fight Butterbean at WrestleMania. And Butterbean just absolutely, well, I don't want to spoil it for you, Mike. Close your
yeah.
ears. But yeah,
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Butterbean versus Bart Gunn at WrestleMania. And Butterbean just sparks him out early doors. And
Yeah,
that was basically the end of Bart Gunn's pro wrestling career.
yeah, you cannot do stuff like that. I mean, like, you cannot put him with a professional boxer. And yeah, they had a sumo match years later, Big Show versus like a big Japanese sumo guy. Yeah,
Akibono, yeah.
yeah, they try stuff. I mean, like, they had the Mayweather and Big Show match as well. Like, they try stuff. I mean, but that's the thing. Like, you need some sort of innovation in it. Like, that's how the Attitude Era came about, in it, because they were forced. They were to the wall pretty much, because WCW were kicking their ass, and they were forced to reinvent. And I know they get a lot of slack, because there was like, women were really exploited during that era, like bikini contests, that stuff. But I always say that I know that they did that, but they didn't have a choice. They needed to literally, it was a war. Like, when people say, "Oh, Monday Night War," no, mate, people, like, especially if you're like 12 or 13, go to wrestling shows, and when people talk about that time, they don't understand that it was legit. Either you go out of business or I go out of business. You know what I mean? So Vince did a lot of dirty stuff, a lot of tactics, a lot of crazy stuff on TV, but he didn't have a choice. Literally, it's like
And it,
him or them.
And it was a completely different time, wasn't it? It was a different time in society where that stuff was kind of more prevalent on a lot of TV shows. But it depends on who you ask. You say WWE pushed the envelope. A lot of people will say WWE just stole from ECW. They just took a lot of the things that was happening in ECW and that was getting like a really good reaction. And they're like, oh, we might just steal that. Oh, you've got Sandman coming to the ring smoking and drinking. Well, we can't have Steve Austin smoking and drinking, but we can have him
Mm.
drinking in the ring, and we can have all this counterculture stuff. But I think WWE mastered it and did it absolutely fantastically, and did it on a actual global level, which ECW never did. But yeah, all in all, I think I'm going to give this SummerSlam 1998 card, I think I'm going to score it 4.5 out of 10. How about you? What's your score out of 10?
Yeah, probably some. Yeah, 5 on a good day. Yeah, 5 if I'm in a really good mood. Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do apologize. I didn't, you know what I mean? I was expecting to be really good, but I'm on the timeline now and I didn't want to wait months and months. But it is what it is. But when you said about the WCW and the WWE stuff, like, I gave you that example with that big Martinez guy, or whatever, like the guy, Big Silver, 6'7", and he goes
Yeah,
from
yeah.
things to things. I think with Ted Turner, when he bought WCW, that famous call where he calls Vince and he said, "I'm in the wrestling business."
Sure,
And
yeah.
Vince says, "Good for you, but I'm in the entertainment business." I think that Ted Turner, because he's a billionaire and he buys all these companies, his heart is not into wrestling. So he's kind of like the big silver guy, the guy who has the money and the power, in the case of that guy, the size, and he just goes
Hmm.
to businesses. He doesn't care about this. He's like, oh, let's see if something happens here. While Vince in this case is Shawn Michaels. So he doesn't know anything else. Vince doesn't sell cokes on the side of the road. He doesn't have a kebab shop. He doesn't have
Yeah.
anything else. All he has is wrestling. So
Can you
he
imagine a
lives.
Vince McMahon kebab shop, by the way?
I'll go there every single day, and
The
he's
doner
making the
kebab
kebabs.
would be like over a ladder. It'd be like on a ladder match. You'd have to climb up to get your doner kebab spinning above it.
Everything's a gimmick with him. Yeah, it'll be
Yeah,
hilarious. And but he just lives wrestling, and I think that's why he won. Because and the other thing is, like, he's a very controversial figure. Let's be honest. But I'm just looking at him, and we are in the entertainment business as well, isn't it? So I'm just looking at him, and I
sure.
was like, he's an absolute madman. This guy, you know what I mean? Like his antics, the stuff he does on TV, off TV, like the way he sees the world and the way he like move his company forward. There's a lot of faults, a lot of bad things, but also this guy is insane, and he's insane in his belief. And I think that Ted Turner, he just didn't know what he was going against, because he thought, oh, I have all the money, I'll get all the talent. Yeah, you did that, and it worked. It worked for about 2 years. But then the madman who lives and breathes wrestling, he will overcome eventually. I think that even if Vince McMahon had no wrestlers, he will find fucking janitors and waiters, and you know what I mean, from the venue nearby, and he'll still put on a show. This is how fucking insane this guy is. So
Definitely, it was a very interesting time in the wrestling world, and I mean, Ted Turner, he did kind of have a love for wrestling, because wrestling was one of the things that really helped him originally when his network first came to be. But the main thing that killed WCW was kind of nothing to do with Ted Turner. It was kind of more about how AOL Time Warner were merging, and then basically Ted Turner was losing power of his own company behind it without himself even really knowing. And then people behind Ted Turner's back going, right, we're going to get rid of this WCW. Now we've taken the power away from him. Let's just get rid of it. And that was the death of WCW. But Mike, thank you very, very much for joining me today on this very, very fun episode of SummerSlam 1998.
oh, cheers, mate. That was really, I had a lot of fun, even though the pay-per-view was not that good, but we discussed other stuff around the wrestling world, and I'm definitely up for doing more episodes in the future, and we're gonna bring you better pay-per-view, people, I promise.
Sorted, sorted. So is there anything you want to plug before you head off?
Oh yeah, so I do stand-up comedy, and I have my own podcast called The Mike Yanek Show. You can find it. It's just a comedy solo podcast. I just rant and talk nonsense for about hour and a half every Wednesday. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube as well. Also, you can follow me on social media for posts and like future gigs, even though there's no gigs now, but in the future. Instagram is at Mike Yanek, and my Facebook page where I post a lot of stuff is at Mike Yanek Show. That's about it.
There we go. So go follow Mike on all of his platforms. Go listening to his podcast. I absolutely loved the episode where he was talking about cricket and you didn't understand what a wicket was, but that's a story for another day. Mike, thank you very
Cheers,
much for
mate.
joining me. I've been Adam Anwar. We'll see you all soon.